When you're driving along the highway and you see some people like this moving by the roadside with their livestock, what do you think? Some of you may think, get off the road, you're slowing me down. Some others may say, these people are so backward, I wish they would settle down and modernize. Or if you're an animal lover, you may say, the poor animals, these people are really cruel, they don't care about the welfare of their animals. Well, if you think like that, you're not alone. Most governments in the world think like that. But you and they should think again. Because without these people moving around with their livestock, India would starve. And not just India, but many other countries in the world as well. Yes, without these people, there would not be enough food on the table, and the environment and wildlife would also suffer. And one thing is for sure, these people really love their animals, and they place the welfare of their animals before their own comforts. When I came to India, almost 27 years ago, I was a failed veterinary doctor. I had failed in large animal, farm animal practice because treating animals was all about economics. I had failed in pet animal practice because I just wasn't very good dealing with the owners. So not knowing what to do with the rest of my life, I went as a volunteer on an archaeological dig in Jordan. It was a beautiful place in the Jordan Valley called Pella, and every day in the morning, a Bedouin would bring his huge herd of 100 camels to drink on the small rivulet that meandered through our site. And I fell in love with camels. Right there and then, I decided to become a camel researcher, and I wrote my PhD on camel domestication. Fast forward a few years, and I found myself in India on a scholarship to study camel socioeconomics. My mission was not to study the camels that were pulling carts in Rajasthan city at that time, still in large numbers. My goal was to study the camel breeders. I found out quite quickly that there is a specialized community called Raika or Rebari who have a heritage of breeding camels. I was trying to meet them, but that proved to be a real challenge because they were always moving around. And whenever I got to the place where I was told they would be, they had already left. Then one morning, and I'll never forget that, in February 1991, I came to the village of Latada in Pali district. We went to the house of a Raika called Santiba. And in his courtyard was this herd of 20 camels, and they were just waking up. And they were the most quiet and peaceful animals you can imagine. There were small children moving around the camels, including a toddler who could hardly walk. When I'd been at veterinary school, I'd always been taught you have to be very careful with large animals. Before you go near them, you have to put the chain on them or put them into a crush. But these animals, they were not dangerous. They were like beloved pets. And the Raika and their camels were living together like one big family. When I started talking to the Raika, I was even more surprised because they told me, we never slaughter camels or use them for their meat. We never sell female camels. We never sell camel milk. We only give it away for free. And they were explaining this was because God Shiva had given them the responsibility of taking care of the camel, so they felt it was their duty in life to make sure the camels were always happy and healthy. But this was becoming very difficult. They were telling the forest here has just been closed and our camels are starving, and in fact there's been a disease outbreak and many camels have died. And when the Raika heard that I'm a veterinary doctor, they took me to the body of a dead camel right there. And they were desperate for help. So I felt really bad because I had seen only the beauty of these people and not their sorrow. And I thought I have to do something to help them. And I thought, okay, I'll buy some medicines and I'll hire a veterinary doctor and he'll cure the camels, and the Raika and we can go our separate ways and get on with our lives. Never have I been so wrong in my life. While it was possible to buy medicines, it was impossible to find a veterinary doctor who would cure the camels, who would help the people. Within a few months, we had gone through 6 veterinary doctors, and they all left because they had to got a job in government service, or because they thought it's belonged their dignity to actually work with these people who they thought were really backward. So we needed another solution. And I was thinking, what kind of alternatives are there? What did these people do before there was modern veterinary medicine? And I started to do some research into their traditional knowledge. And I found a treasure trove. These people had their own disease classification system. They made their own medicines by collecting plants in the forest and mixing them up and giving them to the camels. They had even developed a simple vaccination technique against pox. The knowledge that they had of managing camels within the environment was truly phenomenal. So for some time I thought the Raika are really unique, but then gradually I became aware that India is actually full of such animal cultures, as I call them, of communities whose life totally revolves around the welfare of the animals. We find them in Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Odisha, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. So why do you think these people are moving around with their animals? For one, it's much better for the animals if they move. If they graze instead of being tied up and somewhere and being stall-fed. Just like humans, we also need our morning walk to stay healthy, so it's much better for animals to walk as well. But the second and main reason is because these animals are like a combine harvester. They harvest any kind of vegetation. It can be trees, grasses, shrubs, anything that can be eaten is harvested by these animals. These are, for instance, the 36 different types of plants that the camel eats in our part of Pali district. 36 plants according to traditional knowledge. So I was just saying the camels are, or the livestock are like a combined harvester, but actually they're much, much better. In fact, I think a combined harvester is prehistoric compared with this moving livestock. Because a combined harvester, it needs fossil fuels. It can harvest only one crop. It doesn't process. It can only be used on flat cultivated lands. And these animals are fueled by bioenergy or by biodiversity. They eat almost anything, and while they're eating, they're already processing into high-value protein. And they can go anywhere. You know, they can go to the top of the mountain. Sometimes they swim through oceans, or not through oceans, through lakes to get to something to eat. They are truly amazing. And in fact, mobile livestock produces more than 50% of India's milk and more than 70% of its meat. Now I know there's going to be a lot of vegetarians or even vegans here in the audience, and you'll say, it's of no relevance to me. I don't eat meat, I don't need dairy. I don't need meat and I don't need dairy either. But that's slightly mistaken, because these animals do something else. They provide organic fertilizer directly on the field where it is needed. You don't need a tractor to bring out the fertilizer. It's deposited right there. And many of India's soils actually cannot cope with chemical fertilizer. If you use chemical fertilizer on them for a few years, they go absolutely sterile. So organic fertilizer is the only option we have. And there's been a calculation that India's 64 million sheep, they produce around 15 billion rupees worth of organic fertilizer every year. So India's animal culture, they're really a tremendous asset that we have. And that it conserves biodiversity at the same time, because you don't have to cultivate land. These animals just eat any kind of natural vegetation that is there and directly process it into other products. But the Raika, with their camels, they do something else. They produce medicine. Because camel milk is showing to be very valuable in the treatment of diseases. One of them is diabetes. Camel milk has a substance in it that's very similar to insulin. And if you drink camel milk, immediately your blood sugar level goes down. Camel milk, we see, is being used to treat skin diseases and liver diseases. And it's especially useful for treatment of autistic children. Many autistic children, if they take only a small dose of camel milk, they change their behavior. They establish eye contact, and they sleep much better. My friend Christina Adams, she has an autistic son, and just giving him some camel milk effected a total turnaround. What this effect of camel milk is due to, the scientists are not sure. But we believe it has something to do with the 36 different types of plants that the camels eat. Because all these plants are all used in traditional medicine. They're described in ancient Ayurvedic texts. They have medicinal qualities. So if you drink camel milk, you access some of the properties that are in these plants. So we have this amazing cultural, biocultural heritage here in India, but it's very much under threat because these people are being squeezed out everywhere by urbanization and highways and so on. So we have to do something to ensure that they continue into the future, that we recognize the valuable services they provide to humanity and for food security. And I do appeal to the government to really take notice of these people and make their life a little bit easier. And you, my dear audience, next time you drive along the highway and you see these people, please slow down your car, give these people some respect and be grateful to them because they put the food on your table. And don't forget, they love their animals and the animals love them. Thank you.